The ship landed with a soft hiss on the red soil of planet Zevia. 20 years ago, Captain Zach Mason remembered that day clearly. He had been a young lieutenant, then part of a rescue mission after receiving a distress signal from an alien research vessel. The mission was supposed to be simple: get in, check for survivors, and get out. Their orders were clear: do not engage with any hostile forces. The Zevians were not enemies, but they were not allies either. Humans were still new to the galactic community and tensions ran high. Zach led his team through the smoking ruins of what once had been an impressive research facility. The air was thick with an odd, sweet smell that made his eyes water. His team moved with practiced precision weapons. Ready? Their boots crunched over broken glass and twisted metal. Where are the bodies? Wondered Allison, the medic, her voice hushed inside her helmet. Zach had been wondering the same thing. The destruction was total, yet they had found no remains either. Zevian or otherwise, keep moving, he ordered. The scanners picked up a life sign in the central lab. They moved deeper into the facility. The red sun of Zevia cast long shadows through the broken walls, making every corner seem alive with movement. The central lab doors were sealed shut, unlike the others. Sam, the tech specialist, examined the control panel. It looks like someone locked it from the inside, sir. Can you open it? She nodded, her fingers dancing over the alien interface. Got it. The doors slid open, revealing a laboratory in slightly better condition than the rest of the facility. Equipment still hummed with power. Research samples lined the walls in glowing containers. But Zach barely noticed any of this. His attention fixed immediately on the small figure huddled beneath a control panel. It was a child. A Zevian child with pale blue skin that seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. She looked up as they entered, her silver eyes wide with fear. Her small body trembled. She could not have been more than the equivalent of an 8-year-old human child. Zach held up his hand, signaling his team to lower their weapons. He stepped forward, slowly removing his helmet so she could see his face. Hello, he said softly, knowing his translator would convert his words. I am Lieutenant Mason. We received your distress call. The child said nothing but pressed herself further against the wall. Her large eyes never left his face. Zach noticed a small identification tag on her clothing. The translator, in his suit, processed the symbols. Lyra, he read aloud. Is that your name? She blinked at the sound of her name. Something in her posture relaxed just slightly, but still she did not speak. Allison moved forward slowly. Sir, she looks dehydrated, and possibly in shock. Zach nodded and knelt down, keeping a respectful distance from the frightened child. Lyra, can you tell us what happened here? Where is everyone? The child looked at him for a long moment, then spoke, her voice so quiet that the translator almost missed it. They came for the research. They killed everyone. Her 6-fingered hand clutched at something hanging from her neck. They did not find me. Because of this? It was a small pendant glowing with a faint light, cloaking technology. Sam whispered, impressed. Never seen one that small. Lyra nodded. The research was my father's. He gave me this, told me to hide. They would have killed me too. She looked up at Zach with those unnervingly large silver eyes. You are human, yes? Zach answered. We are here to help. Father said humans were different, dangerous but honest. The child's words seemed older than her years. She slowly stood up, still clutching her pendant. Will you take me away from here? Zach hesitated. The protocol was clear. No Zevians were to be brought aboard human vessels without extensive diplomatic clearance. The relations between their species were too fragile. But looking at the child, the only survivor of what appeared to be a brutal attack, he could not bring himself to follow. Protocol, yes, he said. We will take you somewhere safe. Allison touched his arm. Sir, the regulations, I know what the regulations say. He cut her off. But we are not leaving a child here to die. He turned back to Lyra. We need to move quickly. Can you walk? She nodded and stepped forward. Her movements were graceful despite her obvious exhaustion. When she reached out and took his offered hand with her 6-fingered one, Zach felt a strange connection, like an electric current running between them. He would later wonder if that moment had somehow sealed both their fates. They moved quickly back through the ruins toward their landing craft. Twice they had to hide as something large flew overhead. Zack never got a clear look, but he suspected it was whoever had attacked the facility, returning to make sure nothing remained. Getting Lyra aboard their ship without being noticed by the rest of the crew proved challenging, but Zack managed to hide her in his personal quarters. He would deal with the consequences. Later, first they needed to get off this planet. As their ship lifted off, Zack watched the red landscape of Zevia fall away. What had happened there? Who had attacked the research facility? And what would he do with a Zevian child now in his care? Little did he know that his impulsive act of kindness would set in motion events that would one day determine the fate of both their species. Looking into those silver eyes filled with both fear and trust, Zack made a silent promise he would protect this child no matter what it took. He had no way of knowing how difficult that promise would be to keep. The years passed quickly on Earth. Zack had managed to secure asylum for Lyra through a combination of clever paperwork omissions and the help of a sympathetic admiral named Kate Porter, who had lost her own daughter years before. Lyra adapted to life among humans with remarkable speed. Her natural intelligence allowed her to absorb language and culture at an astonishing rate. By the time she was the equivalent of a human teenager, she spoke perfect English and excelled in her studies, particularly in sciences. At first, the other children had stared at her blue skin and large silver eyes, but her gentle nature and quick wit eventually won them over. Zack visited whenever his duties allowed. He watched with pride as she grew taller. Her movements becoming more graceful, her mind ever sharper. He knew she missed her homeworld, but she never complained. She simply studied harder, as if preparing for something only she could see. One evening when Lyra was 16 in human years, they sat in the garden of Kate's home where Lyra had lived since coming to Earth. The setting sun cast long shadows across the grass. "Why did you save me?" Lyra asked suddenly. Her voice had developed the musical quality common to adult Zevians. "You broke your rules. For me." Why? Zack considered the question. It was not the first time she had asked it, but he sensed she needed a more complete answer. Now, because it was right. He said simply, "Because you were a child who needed help." And because, he added after a pause, "Something told me you were important." "Important to who?" "To everyone, perhaps," he smiled. "To me, certainly." She was quiet for a long moment, the fading light reflecting in her silver eyes. "You should know something," she said finally. "My father was not just any scientist. He was creating a defense system for our people. Something that could protect us from any threat." Zack frowned. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I found his research," she said. Her 6 fingers intertwined, a gesture of anxiety among her kind. "It was hidden in the pendant he gave me. Encrypted. I have been working to understand it for years. Now I finally do." She looked at him directly. "And I am afraid." "Afraid of what?" "Of what will happen when I go home." Zack felt a chill. "You want to go back to Zevia?" She nodded. "I must. The faction that killed my father, that destroyed the facility, they have been gaining power. Their leaders believe that humans are a threat to the galaxy, that your species expands too quickly, adapts too readily. They fear you. But we have treaties, peaceful relations. Treaties can be broken." She stood and walked a few steps away, her slender form silhouetted against the sunset. "I must return and show my people that humans are not to be feared, that we can coexist. That cooperation is possible." Zack stood as well. "How would you do that?" "By finishing my father's work," she said. "But doing it differently." He wanted to create a shield. "I want to create a bridge." They spoke late into the night. Lyra explaining her plans, Zack pointing out flaws and possibilities. By morning, they had reached an agreement. She would continue her studies on Earth for 2 more years. Then he would help her return to her people. Those 2 years passed in a blur. Lyra graduated at the top of her class from the most prestigious science academy on Earth. Her thesis on interspecies neural networks won awards and caught the attention of the Galactic Alliance. The same alliance that had been keeping Zevians and humans carefully separated for decades on. The night before her departure, Lyra sat with Zack on the same garden bench. They had come full circle. I am afraid again, she admitted, but for different reasons. Now I fear I will fail. You won't, Zack said with confidence. You are the most capable person I have ever known, human or Zevian. She smiled, the expression she had learned from humans looking strange but sincere on her alien features. What if they reject me? What if they see me as contaminated by human ideas? Then you will find another way, you always do. She reached out and took his hand, her 6 fingers entwining with his 5. I will miss you, she said. You have been my family, and you mine. He squeezed her hand gently. Promise me you will be careful. The military faction you spoke of, they sound dangerous. I promise. She looked up at the stars visible now in the darkening sky. They will listen to me. I am still the daughter of Kelvar, a respected scientist, and I have his research, his knowledge. Plus, everything I have learned. Here Zack nodded but could not shake a feeling of foreboding. When he had smuggled a small blue child onto his ship all those years ago, he could never have imagined this moment, sending her back into potential danger, letting her go. The next morning, they said their goodbyes at the spaceport. Lyra, now tall and poised, wearing the traditional robes of a Zevian scholar. The pendant her father had given her still hung around her neck. This is not goodbye forever, she said as she prepared to board the Galactic Alliance vessel that would take her home. I will send word when I can. Zack watched as the ship rose into the clear blue Earth sky, taking Lyra back to the world she had fled as a child. He did not know when he would see her again, for the next 2 years messages came regularly. Lyra had been accepted back into Zevian society. She had gained a position in their science academy. She was making progress, sharing her ideas carefully, gaining supporters. Then suddenly the messages stopped. Dick used every connection he had tried, every diplomatic channel, but it was as if Lyra had vanished. 2 more years passed without word. Zack rose through the ranks, becoming captain of his own ship, but he never stopped looking for information about the blue-skinned girl with silver eyes who had become like a daughter to him. He did not know that across the galaxy Lyra was fighting her own battles that would eventually bring them face to face again under the most unexpected circumstances. On the planet Zevia, Lyra stood before the High Council, her blue skin adorned with the swirling marks of achievement that she had earned since her return. The chamber was vast and cold, built from the crystalline stone native to her world. The 7 council members watched her with unblinking silver eyes. Your proposal is dangerous, said Elder Vox, his voice echoing in the chamber. Cooperation with humans has never ended well. They are unpredictable. Violent, Lyra kept her posture straight, respectful, but unintimidated. I have lived among them for many cycles. Elder, I have seen their capacity for both violence and compassion. They saved me when they had no reason to do so. Another council member, Matron. Celine leaned forward, her ancient face creased with skepticism. The human who saved you did so against his own people's rules. You cannot judge an entire species based on one exception, but it was not just one. Lyra countered. There was the admiral who gave me a home, the teachers who educated me, the children who became my friends. Humans are capable of great kindness when given the chance. The debate continued for hours. Lyra presented her research, her father's work enhanced by her time on Earth. A neural network that could link Zevian and human minds, allowing for true understanding across species. A technology that could end centuries of mistrust. When she finished, the council withdrew to deliberate. Lyra waited in the antechamber, her heart racing. She touched the pendant at her neck, drawing comfort from its familiar weight. A shadow fell across her. She looked up to see Commander Drav, leader of the military faction. His uniform gleamed with medals. His face was hard and angular, impressive presentation. He said, his tone making it clear he found it anything but. Your time with the humans has made you an excellent speaker. Thank you, Commander, she replied carefully. Such a shame your ideas are so dangerous. He stepped closer, his height towering over her. Perhaps you truly believe what you say. Perhaps you really think humans can be trusted, but I have seen what they are capable of. They will take your technology and use it against us. I have safeguards in place. Safeguards can be broken. He smiled coldly. The Council will reject your proposal. They understand what you do not. That strength, not cooperation, is the only language humans respect. Before Lyra could respond, the doors opened. The Council had reached their decision. She returned to the chamber. Her steps measured, hiding her anxiety. Elder Vox spoke. We have considered your proposal, Lyra, daughter of Kelvar. While we appreciate the research you have done, we cannot approve the development of this neural network. The risks outweigh the potential benefits. Lyra felt her heart sink, but she maintained her composure. May I ask what you plan? Instead, Matron Celine answered. The Council has decided to increase our defensive capabilities. We will not seek conflict with humans, but neither will we leave ourselves vulnerable. Commander, Drav will oversee our new security initiatives, added Elder. Vox Lyra looked at Drav, who stood to the side, a slight smile on his face. She knew then that he had influenced the Council's decision. Perhaps had been planning this for years. I understand, she said, bowing her head in the traditional gesture of respect. May I continue my research in other areas? The Council granted this request, but placed restrictions on her access to resources and information. She was to be watched, monitored, her communications, especially with Earth reviewed. For the next 2 years, Lyra worked within these limitations, continuing her research in secret, while publicly focusing on less controversial projects. She gathered supporters among the younger scientists, those who shared her vision of cooperation rather than isolation. But she also noticed changes in Zevian society. Military personnel became more visible in the Science Academy. Security protocols increased. Travel between worlds became more restricted. And rumors spread that Commander Drav had begun developing weapons, not just defenses. Lyra knew she had to act. She used her father's old contacts to send encrypted messages to Earth, warning of the shifting politics on Zevia. But she could never be sure if her messages were received. The silence from Earth worried her. Then came the announcement that changed everything. The Galactic Alliance has betrayed us, declared Commander Drav, now promoted to High Commander. In a planet-wide broadcast, they have given humans access to restricted star systems, including our outer colonies. Protests arose from those who doubted this claim, but they were quickly silenced. Drav implemented emergency powers with the Council's reluctant approval. All communication with off-worlders was cut. Citizens were encouraged to report suspicious activity. Martial law in all but name. Lyra watched in horror as her people embraced fear over reason. She knew Drav's claims were likely fabricated, but without proof she could do nothing until one night when a junior researcher named Tyvek smuggled data to her apartment. High Commander Drav has falsified Alliance communications, he whispered, showing her the evidence he plans to attack human outposts, claiming preemptive defense. How did you get this? Lyra asked, examining the damning files. I work in communications. My loyalty is to truth, not fear. Tyvek looked nervously toward the window. We must warn someone. Lyra thought quickly. I have a plan, but it's dangerous. You could be labeled. A traitor already am by bringing you this. She nodded, then reached for her pendant. It contained not only her father's research, but a communication device she had built based on human technology. One that operated outside Zevian networks. I can send a message to Earth to someone I trust, who would trust a Zevian now. Someone who knows not all of us want war. That night, while the twin moons of Zevia shone through her window, Lyra sent her warning to Zach Mason. Now Captain Mason, according to the latest information she had, she could only hope the message would reach him in time. 3 days later, she was arrested for treason. The trial was brief. A formality. Commander Drav himself presented the evidence. Intercepted communications, unauthorized. Research suspicious meetings. The Council watched in silence as Lyra defended herself, but their decision had been made before she ever entered the chamber. Her punishment was unexpected. You will serve Zevia Elder Vox. Pronounced, your knowledge is too valuable to waste. Your skills will be put to use in service of our people. Lyra was confused until Commander Drav explained, you will join my flagship as science advisor. He said, his voice cold. You will help us understand human weaknesses. Your knowledge of their technology will prove useful in the coming conflict. She realized then the true cunning of her enemies. Prison would have made her a martyr. Death would have wasted her knowledge. But forcing her to help them against the very people who had saved her, that was a special kind of cruelty. I refuse, she said, her voice steady. Drav smiled. Then perhaps you would reconsider if you knew we have arrested young Tyvek as well. His fate depends on your cooperation. Lyra felt trapped. She could not sacrifice Tyvek, but neither could she help destroy humanity. She needed time to think, to plan. I will serve, she said finally. But I require my research materials. My notes, Drav nodded as if he had expected this request. They will be provided under supervision, of course. And so Lyra found herself aboard the Zevian warship Destiny, her new prison, given quarters that were comfortable but constantly monitored, provided with a lab where she worked under guard, developing systems that she tried to design with hidden flaws, backdoors that might later prove useful. Every day she searched for a way to warn Earth. Every night she worked on adapting her neural technology in secret, and then came the news that changed everything. The human ship Stardancer had been detected in disputed space. Captain Zach Mason commanding, dragged before Commander Drav now. Admiral Drav. Lyra maintained a calm she did not feel. You know this human? He stated, not a question. I knew him once. She answered carefully. He saved my life as a child. Perfect. Drav smiled. A predator's smile. You will speak with him. You will convince him to surrender his ship. You will be the face of the Zevian Dominion, and if I refuse, then his ship will be destroyed without warning, and you will watch. Lyra nodded her agreement, while inside her mind raced. This was both her greatest fear and perhaps her only chance to face Zach again after all these years, to somehow warn him of what was coming. As she prepared to transmit her message to the Stardancer, Lyra touched the pendant that still hung around her neck. Inside it contained not just her father's research, but now her own modified, adapted, a bridge between species, but also something more. A weapon against those who would use fear to drive them apart. She only hoped Zach would understand what she could not openly say. Admiral Drav watched with cold satisfaction as the human ship attempted to evade his weapons. The smaller vessel was nimble, but had nowhere to run. His tactical officer reported shield damage to the Stardancer after just one hit. Prepare to fire. Again, he ordered one more direct hit should disable them before the order could be carried out. Lyra spoke from where she stood at the science station. Sir, they are hailing us. Drav frowned. Put them through. The image of Captain Zach Mason appeared. On the screen, his expression was calm, determined. There was something different about him, something Drav could not quite identify. Admiral Drav. The human said, I wish to discuss terms. Drav smiled. The only terms are your immediate surrender. I think not, Captain Mason replied. Instead, I offer you this. He held up a small crystal identical to the one Lyra had given him. Your science advisor has shared some interesting information with me. Information the Zevian High Council might find concerning. Drav turned to Lyra, his eyes narrowing. She met his gaze steadily, her face revealing nothing. He looked back at the screen. This is a desperate bluff. Captain. Perhaps Mason acknowledged. But are you willing to take that chance? A direct neural interface, he continued, containing detailed records of your communications, false reports to the Council, manufactured evidence. The murder of scientists who opposed you. Impossible, Drav hissed. How could you? The human smiled. I told you. Your science advisor has been most helpful. Drav spun to face Lyra. You traitor. She stood calmly facing him. Admiral Drav, the true traitor. Here is the one who would lead our people to war based on lies. Arrest. Her. Drav commanded his guards. But as they moved toward Lyra, the ship suddenly shuddered. Alarms blared. Console lights flickered. What is happening? Demanded Drav. Systems failure, reported the tactical officer. Weapons going offline. Life support fluctuating. This is impossible. We just completed full diagnostics. On the screen, Captain Mason watched calmly. I should mention, he said, that the neural interface contained more than just information. It also contained a virus designed specifically for Zevian systems, a virus that is currently spreading throughout your ship. Drav turned to his communications officer. Contact the fleet. Tell them communications are down, sir. All channels. The Admiral drew his weapon, pointing it at Lyra. You did this. She nodded. Once I realized you planned genocide, I had no choice. But how? The virus would need to be uploaded directly to our systems. I did that, she said simply. When I came aboard 6 months ago, a slow-acting program designed to remain dormant until activated, and you just activated it, said. Drav, realization dawning, the crystal you gave the human. It wasn't just information, it was a trigger. The human ship is hailing all frequencies, reported a junior officer. Put it through. This time the message was not just to their ship, but broadcasting to the entire Zevian fleet. Attention, Zevian vessels. This is Captain Zach Mason of the Earth vessel Stardancer. I am transmitting proof that Admiral Drav has deliberately falsified information to push your people toward war with humanity. His claims about Galactic Alliance betrayal are fabricated. His reports of human aggression manufactured. The neural data I am sending contains his own communications, ordering the assassination of scientists who opposed his views and the falsification of military intelligence. Drav lunged for the console, trying to cut the transmission, but his access codes no longer worked. The bridge crew watched in stunned silence as years of deception were exposed. The human continued. I urge the Zevian High Council to examine this evidence. We do not seek conflict with your people. We ask only for a return to peaceful relations and honest diplomacy. To that end, I am also transmitting research developed by Lyra, daughter of Kelvar, a neural interface that can bridge our species, allowing true understanding across our differences. This technology could ensure lasting peace between our worlds in the ensuing chaos. Drav made his move. He grabbed Lyra, using her as a shield, and backed toward the emergency transport pad. No one stops me, he snarled. Or she dies. Zach Mason watched from his ship as sensors detected the transport signature. 2 life forms moving to a small auxiliary vessel attached to the Zevian warship. They are trying to escape, sir, reported Penny. Her fingers flew over her console. The shuttle has detached from the main ship. Can we disable it without destroying it? Asked Zach. No, sir. It's too small for a precision hit. We either let it go or take it out completely. Zach closed his eyes, momentarily feeling the faint connection that still lingered from the neural interface. He could sense Lyra's determination, her lack of fear. Suddenly the shuttle exploded in a brilliant flash of light. No, Zach whispered. Sir, incoming transmission from the Zevian ship on screen. A young Zevian officer appeared. Admiral Drav attempted to escape with Admiral Lyra as hostage, he reported. But she activated her pendant. It caused a feedback loop in the shuttle's systems. Is she? The officer shook his head. We detected no survivors. The bridge of the Stardancer fell silent. Zach gripped the arms of his chair, his knuckles white. She had sacrificed herself to stop Drav from escaping to potentially continue his plans elsewhere. Captain, the Zevian ships are standing down, Lisa reported. Their weapons are powering. Down, sir, added Penny. We are receiving a transmission from Zevia itself. It's the High Council. For the next several hours, Zach spoke with the Zevian leaders, sharing the evidence Lyra had collected, answering their questions. The council was shaken by the revelations. Some members had suspected Drav's manipulations, but none had realized the extent of his deception or his plans for war. 3 days later, the Stardancer remained in orbit around Zevia. Diplomatic teams from Earth had arrived. A new era of cooperation seemed possible, born from tragedy. Zach stood in his quarters, staring out at the beautiful blue planet below. The door chimed. Enter, he called. Lisa stepped inside. Sir, there is something you should see. What is it? A message. It just came through on a highly encrypted channel addressed specifically to you. Zach frowned. From who? The signature, she said, hesitating as if she could hardly believe it. It's from Lyra. Zach stared at her. What? But how? I don't know, sir. But it's definitely from her. The encryption matches the neural interface perfectly. Show me the message was brief text only, Zach. If you are reading this, I succeeded. Admiral Drav is gone, and our peoples have a chance for peace. You may believe I died on that shuttle. I did not. My father's research included more than just neural interfaces. It included transportation technology as well. I cannot explain further, but know that I am safe. I will continue our work from the shadows until I am certain all of Drav's supporters have been identified. The pendant you still wear around your neck, the one I gave you years ago, it contains one final gift. Use it when you are ready to find me. Until then, remember what I told you as a child. My father said humans were different. Dangerous but honest. I have found this to be true. But I would add one thing. They are also capable of great love. Thank you for teaching me that Lyra. Zach touched the small pendant he had worn since Lyra left Earth so many years ago. The one shed, given him before departing, saying it would keep them connected. He had thought it merely a sentimental gesture. Now he understood it was much more. Where are you? He whispered. Looking out at the stars. Somewhere preparing for the next chapter, he imagined. A chapter where their peoples would learn to understand each other, where the boundaries between human and alien might begin to fade. The crystal in his hand pulsed once, warm against his skin. Almost like a heartbeat. A promise. She was out there, and one day when the time was right he would find her. The alien girl he had saved. The woman who had in turn saved them all. For now, though, there was work to do, a peace to build, a bridge between worlds to construct. The work Lyra had started, Zach tucked the pendant back beneath his uniform and turned to face his second in command. Lisa, he said, we're going to need a team of our best scientists. What for, sir, to understand this? He held up the neural interface Lyra had created, to build on it. Lisa smiled. The council has approved the research exchange then. They have, Zach nodded. And Admiral Porter has appointed me as liaison. Congratulations, sir, Lisa said. That means you'll be staying here for a while. Zach looked back toward the window, toward Zevia shining, blue and beautiful against the black of space. Yes, he said, for a while, as long as it takes. He added silently, to finish what she started, to find her again. The alien girl he had saved as a child had grown into a woman who had saved them all. Now it was his turn once more, to save not just her but perhaps both their peoples. The work continued, the circle unbroken. The bridge of the Stardancer hummed with activity as Captain Zach Mason studied the Zevian warship on the main screen. Its sleek crystalline structure seemed to absorb the starlight rather than reflect it, making it appear like a hole in space. His ship had been on a routine patrol mission in what their charts showed as neutral territory, when the Zevian vessel had appeared blocking their path. Sir, they are hailing us, said Communications Officer Penny Walsh, her fingers hovering over her console. Zach straightened his uniform. On screen, the image that appeared made several crew members gasp. It took all of Zach's training to keep his expression neutral. When he had last seen Lyra, she had been barely an adult. Now she stood tall and regal, her blue skin adorned with the swirling patterns of Zevian leadership. Her silver eyes regarded him coolly. You are trespassing in Zevian space. Captain Mason, her voice carried the musical quality of her species, but was edged with steel. Zach stepped forward, careful to keep his voice steady. The star charts we received from the Galactic Alliance show this as neutral space. Admiral Lyra, he replied. The corners of her mouth turned up in what humans might mistake for a smile. But Zach knew better. It was a warning sign among her kind. The Galactic Alliance has no authority here. This system has been reclaimed by the Zevian Dominion behind him, his second in command. Lisa Kelly whispered. Is that the alien girl you saved? Zach nodded almost imperceptibly. Yes, Admiral. Lyra tilted her head, studying him through the screen. I will board your vessel to discuss terms. You have 1 hour to prepare. She cut the transmission before he could respond. His navigation officer Penny swiveled in her chair. They have us outgunned 3-1, sir. We should retreat while we can. Zach said, watching the space where Lyra's image had been. We need to understand what's happening here. This isn't like the Zevians to claim neutral territory, especially not Lyra. You speak as if you know her personally, said Tactical Officer Carl Rogers. I do, Zach replied, turning to face his senior staff. She lived on Earth for almost 10 years. I helped raise her. This, he gestured toward the screen where the Zevian ship loomed, is not the person I knew. Something is wrong. For the next hour, the crew prepared for their visitors. Security protocols were reviewed. Escape pods readied, just in case. Zach, meanwhile, retreated to his ready room, trying to make sense of what was happening. The last message he had received from Lyra years ago had warned of growing tensions among her people, but nothing that suggested open hostility. When the Zevian delegation transported aboard, Zach and his officers were waiting in the main conference room. Lyra appeared with 2 guards, tall, muscular Zevians whose blue skin was darker than hers. Their eyes never stopped scanning the room, hands resting on weapons at their sides. Welcome aboard the Stardancer, Zach said formally. Admiral Lyra inclined her head in acknowledgement. Captain Mason, I request a private audience. Is that wise, Sir? Lisa whispered beside him. Probably not, Zach replied quietly, but necessary. He nodded to Lyra. We can speak in my ready room. One of the guards stepped forward. Admiral, our orders will be followed. She cut him off. Captain Mason poses no threat to me. Wait here. The guard looked unhappy but obeyed. Zach led Lyra to his private office. Once the door closed, her posture changed, subtly becoming less rigid, more like the girl he remembered. You saved my life once, she said, her voice softer now. Now I'm here to save yours. Zach frowned. What do you mean? The Zevian Dominion has been taken over by the military faction. They plan to attack Earth. They believe humans are too dangerous to be allowed free range in the galaxy. Her 6 fingers tapped a pattern on the table between them. They sent me because they know our history. They think I will convince you to surrender. Why are you telling me this? Zach asked, studying her face for any sign of deception. She leaned forward. I have not forgotten what you did for me, but my loyalties are complex. I cannot openly betray my people, but I can give you a chance. She pulled out a small crystalline device. This contains the attack plans, the weaknesses in our defenses. She placed it on the table. They are watching me, but not closely enough. Zach hesitated, then took the device. Our scientists will need time to decrypt this. You have 2 days before the fleet arrives. Lyra stood, her official demeanor returning. Just as the guards entered, she added loud enough for them to hear. Your surrender would be the wisest choice. Captain. After she departed, Zach called his senior officers. Penny looked at the crystal with suspicion. This could be a trap. Lisa crossed her arms. We don't have much choice but to trust her. Zach closed his fingers around the crystal, thinking of the frightened child he had saved and the powerful woman she had become. The universe was rarely so neat that a good deed was repaid in kind. And yet we need to get this information back to Earth Command. He decided. I believe her. Carl frowned. Sir, with all due respect, your personal connection to this Zevian might be clouding your judgment. Zach met his officer's gaze, noted. But I knew Lyra for years. She risked her life to give us this. If there is even a chance she is telling the truth, we can't ignore it. The decision was made. The Stardancer would attempt to slip past the Zevian vessel and make a run for Earth. Using a short burst from their engines, they would slingshot around the nearby moon, then jump to hyperspace before the larger ship could pursue. As the crew prepared for the dangerous maneuver, Zach took the crystal to the science lab. Chief Science Officer Betty Chen examined it with growing excitement. This isn't just data storage, she said after running several scans. It's a neural interface Zevian technology, but with what looks like human influences. Can you access it? Zach asked. She shook her head. Not directly, but she hesitated, her eyes widening as she studied the readings. I think it's keyed to you, sir. Your neural pattern specifically. How is that possible? Betty's fingers flew over her console. According to these readings, you and Lyra shared some kind of neural connection. Possibly when you first met, her people have limited telepathic abilities in close contact. This device, She tapped the crystal was designed to activate only for you. Zack remembered the strange sensation. When Lyra had first taken his hand as a child, that electric connection he had felt. What had she done? The ship suddenly lurched, throwing them against the lab bench. Red alert sirens wailed. Zack grabbed the crystal and ran for the bridge. The main screen showed the Zevian warship powering up its weapon systems. They found a way to block our sensors, reported Carl. They detected our engine preparations. They've locked weapons. Penny called out evasive maneuvers. Zack ordered, sliding into his command chair. The Star Dancer banked sharply as energy beams sliced through space where they had been moments before. The smaller human vessel could outmaneuver the Zevian warship, but they could not outgun it. Another hit like that, and our shields are gone, warned engineering officer Sam Tucker over the comm system. They weren't going to make it to the moon for the slingshot maneuver. Zack realized they needed another option. Then he felt it, a strange warmth spreading from his hand. The crystal Lyra had given him was glowing, pulsing in time with his heartbeat. Trust me. Her voice seemed to whisper, though he knew it was impossible. Taking a chance that went against all his training, Zack pressed the crystal against his temple. The world exploded into light and sound. Images poured into his mind. Zevian ship schematics, attack plans, defense codes. But more than that, memories, emotions, Lyra's memories. Her fear when her home was attacked. Her gratitude toward Zack. Her determination to save both their peoples. And underneath it all, a plan so audacious it took his breath away. When he could see again, his officers were staring at him in concern. "Sir, are you all right?" Lisa asked, her hand on his shoulder. "Better than all right," Zack said. Standing, "I know what to do." Penny opened a channel to the Zevian ship.